On the 26th of March at the Singapore Indoor Stadium, One Championship celebrates its 10-year anniversary with a monumental event, 1X, an event so huge that they've had to split it into 3 parts that culminates in a grand finale that features the Featherweight Kickboxing Championship, Flyweight Championship and Women's Atomweight Championship all on the line. But there's one fight that stands out above them all, Rodtang versus Johnson.
It's going to be a shit show to eat it. It's hot as hell too. I knew as soon as I bit into it, it's excellent. Awesome.
Kia ora whanau, this is Kyle from the Casual Corner, brought to you by the Combat Sports Network, and today we're going to be previewing the special rules co-main event fight between Muay Thai legend Rodtang and MMA GOAT Demetrious Johnson. Do you think Johnson can stand toe-to-toe with Rodtang under Muay Thai rules, and can Rodtang survive in MMA, or will Johnson's grappling and BJJ be too much for him? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get cracking. I mentioned this fight is not your run-of-the-mill standard rules bout. This will be 4 by 3 minute rounds with 4-ounce gloves, alternating between 1 Super Series Muay Thai rules and 1's global rule set for mixed martial arts. So, the fight will kick off with a ball firmly in Rodtang's court under Muay Thai rules. If Mighty Mouse can make it past the 3 minute mark, Rodtang will find himself in DJ's territory in the second round under MMA rules. Then back to Muay Thai for the third, and finishing with MMA in the fourth and final. So, that's the rule set. Now, let's take a closer look at the fighters. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson was born in Kentucky, United States in August 1986, but grew up in Washington where he attended Washington High School, where he competed at the state championship for wrestling. Johnson made his pro MMA debut in April 2007, where he'd win by knockout just 17 seconds into the first round. Not bad for a first timer. Over the next 3 years, Johnson would notch up another 9 victories, winning 7 of those by either TKO or submission. In 2010, Demetrious Johnson would make his leap from the regional circuit to the big leagues and signed a deal with WEC, World Extreme Cage Fighting, who are owned by the same parent company as the UFC, and would make his promotional debut at bantamweight against Englishman Brad Pickett in April the same year at WEC's first and only pay-per-view event, WEC 48. The fight was a relatively close one, with Johnson getting the better on the feet. However, Brad Pickett's takedowns and ground control proved to be too much for the undersized Johnson, who was handed the first loss of his career by unanimous decision. Johnson would fight twice more that year, beating Nick Pace by unanimous decision and Demetrious Page by guillotine choke halfway through the 3rd round. That same year, the UFC and WEC merged, and Mighty Mouse became a UFC fighter. Johnson's first fight in the UFC was against Norifumi Yamamoto at UFC 126 in Las Vegas, winning by unanimous decision. He'd notch up another victory against Miguel Torres, again by unanimous decision, before getting his first shot at gold against Dominic Cruz for the UFC Bantamweight Championship in an absolutely outstanding fight. Whilst Johnson showed he had the potential to become a champion, Dominic Cruz was one step ahead the entire fight and showed superior wrestling, suplexing Johnson on several occasions and grinding out a hard-fought, well-earned unanimous decision victory to retain his title. Demetrious Johnson would then move down to Flyweight, a division that he'd sit atop of for the next 6 years. His Flyweight journey would start in March 2012 in the UFC Flyweight tournament semi-final against Ian McCall, a fight that was ruled a majority draw. The pair would rematch a few months later. This time, Mighty Mouse got the nod from the judges and earned a shot at the inaugural UFC Flyweight Championship in the tournament final against Joseph Benavidez. Despite Benavidez being the favourite going into this fight, Johnson kicked off in glorious fashion, utilising his speed and confusing Benavidez with his footwork, proving himself to be an elusive target, effortlessly evading the power shots Benavidez was telegraphing. By the second round, Joey B had found a level head and his heavy shots started to find their target. The third round was as even as they come, but in the fourth round Benavidez landed a huge blow, knocking Johnson to the ground before pouncing on him and locking in a tight guillotine. But Johnson refused to give up and somehow managed to break free. In a turn of events, Johnson stepped his game up and pressured Benavidez for the remainder of the round. The 5th and final was all Johnson. He had an answer for everything Benavidez threw at him, countering the power shots and taking him down at will. 2 of the 3 judges scored the fight to Demetrious Johnson, earning him a split decision victory, and he walked away as the undisputed UFC Flyweight Champion, a title that he would go on to defend a UFC record-breaking 11 times. After successfully defending his title against John Dodson and John Moraga, DJ would rematch Joey B, this time finishing his one-time foe by knockout in the very first round and erasing any doubt over the result of their first outing. He'd successfully defend his strap 4 more times before coming up against the king of cringe, Henry Cejudo, at UFC 197, defeating the Olympic gold medalist by TKO after some vicious knees to the body in the very first round. Again, he'd defend his title 2 more times before making his record-breaking 11th title defense against Ray Borg at UFC 216, winning by armbar. But it wasn't just any armbar. This was a flying German suplex armbar, better known as the mousetrap. A manoeuvre like nothing we'd ever seen before. A move pulled off so perfectly that it left everybody watching in awe. Behind the scenes, UFC President Dana White was grumbling about getting rid of the flyweight division entirely, stating that their champion wasn't a big draw. This coincided with talks of Johnson leaving the UFC and joining One Championship. Johnson would put his title on the line for a 12th time at UFC 227 in a rematch against Henry Cejudo. The fight was very evenly matched throughout and surprisingly went the full 5 rounds. 2 of the 3 judges scored the fight in favour of Cejudo, and with that, Johnson's 6-year, 11 defence reign at the helm of the flyweight division came to an end. In October 2018, a few months after losing his title, it was announced that Demetrious Johnson was being traded to One Championship, with former One welterweight champion Ben Askren making his way to the UFC in return. And we all know how that went.
Guys just flapping gums at each other. Any chance they get. The fight clock is brought to you by Modelo. One of the greatest knockouts.
Johnson made his One Championship debut in the quarterfinal of the One Championship Flyweight Grand Prix, defeating Yuya Wakamatsu by guillotine choke in the second round. He defeated Tatsumitsu Wada in the semis, winning his place in the Grand Prix final. At One Championship Legacy, Demetrious Johnson defeated Danny Kingand and won the One Championship Flyweight Grand Prix. Now listen, I'm going to absolutely butcher some of these Thai names and pronunciations, so forgive me in advance. I'm trying my best, but there's only so much this English tongue can do.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
Rodtang Jitmuangnon was born Tinakorn Srisawat in Phatthalung, Thailand in July 1999. As with many Thai fighters, Rodtang started training at an early age and had his first Muay Thai fight at the age of 8 to help financially support his family. Although it's nearly impossible to find the full details, Rodtang has amassed an unfathomable Muay Thai and kickboxing record. He's had 319 fights, winning 267, which gives him an unmatched 84% win rate. That sounds like a crazy amount of fights for Western sports fans, as it's almost unheard of for fighters to have any more than 30 to 50 fights depending on which sport you follow, but rest assured it is a common occurrence in Thailand, with fighters having multiple fights per week and sometimes multiple fights per night. Rodtang's record online starts with a decision win in 2013 when he would have been 16 years old. He won his first title in January 2016 at the age of 18, winning the 125-pound Max Muay Thai title via decision against Pech Prakan, who he would also successfully defend the title against a month later. On July 29, 2017, he defeated Chai Saw-Jaw to win the vacant Omnoi Stadium 130-pound title. Rodtang retained the title in April 2018 by defeating Vietnam Gang. In June 2018, Rodtang faced Japanese kickboxing superstar Tenshin Nasukawa under kickboxing rules at Rise 125 in Tokyo in an absolutely incredible fight. The judges scored it a draw after 5 rounds and an extra round had to be fought, which Rodtang was judged to have lost. Rodtang signed with One Championship in mid-2018 and made his promotional debut against Sergio Wilson at One Championship Conquest of Heroes, winning by unanimous decision. In August 2019 at One Championship Dawn of Heroes in Manila, Philippines, Rodtang faced Englishman Jonathan Haggerty for the One Flyweight Muay Thai World Championship. After a slow start to the fight, Rodtang knocked Haggerty down in the 4th round and went on to win the fight by unanimous decision and was crowned the new One Flyweight Muay Thai World Champion. In his first title defence, Rodtang defeated Walter Goncalves by split decision at One Championship Century in October 2019. Rodtang then made his second title defence in a rematch against Jonathan Haggerty at One Championship at New Tomorrow in January 2020. This fight was a lot more lively and more one-sided than their first meeting, with Rodtang dropping Haggerty a total of 4 times, the first of which was by liver shot in the first round. Rodtang retained his One Flyweight Muay Thai title with a 3rd round TKO victory after delivering 3 knockdowns in that same round. Rodtang's next title defence was against a familiar foe at One Championship No Surrender, Petchdam, who he would be facing for the third time in his career, having 1 win and 1 loss against prior to this meeting. He defeated Petchdam and retained the title by majority decision after 5 rounds. For the life of me, I can't find any betting odds for this fight online, but it's quite clear that if you break it down by round, Rodtang should be a big favourite in rounds 1 and 3 under Muay Thai rules, and Johnson should be a big favourite in rounds 2 and 4 under MMA rules. I guess it will come down to which fighter can break the other's serve. Logically, Johnson should stand a better chance in Muay Thai than Rodtang should stand in MMA. Rodtang has been training one discipline his entire life and has probably only relatively recently started to train any grappling based discipline, whereas as an MMA fighter, Johnson has at least a reasonably good striking foundation, although not strictly Muay Thai. I don't know, it's a tough one to call for me, but both fighters are known for putting on a show, so this one is almost guaranteed to have highlight reel potential. So, there you have it, our preview of the Rodtang vs Johnson super fight. Let us know how you think this one's going to go down in the comments below, and be sure to like the video and subscribe to the Combat Sports Network. Give CSN a follow on Instagram and Meta, and check out our website www.combatsportsnetwork.co.nz and sign up for access to a plethora of homegrown combat sports events and fights from around the world. I'm Kyle, this is the Combat Sports Network. Until next time, ta-da.